Sweet logo.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the very first installment of a very special league, the Collegiate iRacing League, set to make its debut here tonight. With me up here in the booth is Joshua Crane, both of us founders of the CIL, the College iRacing League. And what we got for you tonight is round number 1 from Spa of our pilot season. And here to tell you more about that is Joshua Crane. Josh, take it on over.
We are both excited to be here. And we're going to have something very special tonight with all the inability to be out and compete with schools and even lack of college football. We have come up with a little spot to duke it out, trade paint and colors here online in the virtual realm here in the hills of Belgium. Spa, that's where we are with over 20 GTE cars. Thinking of the ILMS class in iRacing. And we are going to race 60 minutes. That's an hour around this track. Lap times will be about 2 minutes, 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 16 seconds. And it's going to be exciting. We're going to have some cool content. We're going to have some great paint colors. And we are excited, almost as excited as these drivers to bring this to you in your own.
Absolutely. And what's really cool about this is a lot of the guys have kind of gone all in on this, and they've done a bunch of paint schemes like Josh had mentioned. So you're going to see a UNLV tonight. You're going to see a University of Mizzou at Columbia. You're going to see a lot of colleges across America and maybe even throughout the season across the world, which is so cool and really brings a neat little aspect of rooting for your favorite school, or maybe your conference's school if you don't necessarily have a school in it, or maybe you want to be your team's or your school's representative. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with the CIL here tonight.
Absolutely. We've got a ton of schools represented here. We've got VCU, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Western Michigan. We've got Colorado School of Mines. We've got Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Northeastern University. And these are just some of the schools that are gonna be here. The University of Puerto Rico. And we are going to share it all on the same track tonight. And I think that is something where the virtual world has a leg up. Did not cost anyone any plane tickets or crate shipments to get here. Everyone's got the car. Everyone's got their paint. Everyone's got either their degree or their syllabus in hand. And we are ready to go in about 5 minutes.
Absolutely. And when 5 minutes kicks off this race, there's actually some money on the line here tonight. We're going to give away money to the top 10 drivers that finish here tonight. Also, the top 10 drivers that finish the season. But that's not all. We're going to give away $5 to the hard charger of the race. That's the driver that goes from furthest in the back to and makes the most passes for position. So even a driver who starts all the way in the back can be in the money tonight. And what's really cool tonight is we have been provided a scholarship for a couple of drivers, so drivers that might not be able to purchase a track or a car for iRacing. We're going to provide them the ability to get out on the track with us here tonight, and I think that's something really cool that NextBookIt is providing for us here tonight.
That absolutely is, and NextBookIt has helped out in many ways, but all towards the goal of reducing the cost. iRacing, I mean, even for myself, I wasn't really in a financial spot to do iRacing until I graduated and had that income. So NextBookIt has been phenomenal, and you'll hear about them here shortly when we talk about cost, and that's our single biggest barrier to getting these drivers on track. And we do love to see it that these race winnings and not just the podium finishers. There's incentive for the top 10 finishers and the Hard Charger Award, the most positions gained award that Jarrett spoke of. And so what NextBookIt has enabled us to do as a group is lower that barrier, remove that barrier to entry for some of these drivers. And then the feedback is overwhelmingly positive, and we're excited to bring it to you.
Absolutely. So that being said, let's turn it over to NextBookIt, and we'll hear from them, and we'll get you back to the racing action here in a moment.
For college students, books are expensive. Buying and selling them is frustrating, and it even hurts. We get it, but there's a better way that doesn't have to feel like this. With NextBookIt, skip the bookstores and buy and sell books exclusively to other students on any campus. It's easy to use, and it makes life less stressful. Buying and selling books just got easier. Just NextBookIt.
So as you just saw right there, NextBookIt is definitely going to be the next big thing for college students. It's a marketplace where you can buy and sell textbooks to and from other students from all across the country. And as an incentive to sell your books, for limited time, NextBookIt is offering $10 extra on top of what you make on your first book sale. Who doesn't love free money? In addition to this, use the code SAVECASH20, SAVECASH, SAVECASH20, for free shipping and no fees. What are you waiting for? NextBookIt this fall.
I think it's fantastic. I'm excited, to see how they do this fall, and I agree that there is not a space, to be able to find the books. They're expensive. You went to school. I went to school. Our chat went to school and spend a small fortune on textbooks, learning material, course packs, and these things add up. And we just talked about cost, and it's an inhibitor to a lot of things. And I think NextBookIt is a great partner for all college students as well as a series.
Absolutely. We could not be more excited to have them on with us here tonight, providing, like we said, not only that race winnings and those scholarships, just really providing a great experience for these drivers here tonight. Now, as we start thinking about the race, getting about 2 minutes to go left in qualifying here, Josh, what do you think is your key for the race as we start looking at this beautiful track here in Belgium?
I think there's going to be a couple things. We have seen, and iRacers that have been to Spa will tell you that it is going to be tough to avoid off tracks. There are a lot of fast sweepers. There's a lot of understeer in these cars, especially guys that are trying to figure out their downforce settings with the new way that iRacing has done downforce and tire modeling in the last few weeks. So I think we can expect that. Off tracks and incidents, especially turn one. This track is famous. The first turn is a tight, acute, a very slow corner called La Source. And I think when we drop the green flag, we can put our cameras right there and we'll see who makes it through, who comes out on top, and who has to lift and give the position. And we might see a situation where nobody chooses to lift. And I am excited to cover that as well.
Absolutely, and something that we need to mention as well. There is, for this race and for the rest of the pilot season, I do believe, one fast repair, meaning if you get any kind of damage on your vehicle, you can come down pit lane, and it's as soon as you get a new race car, just like that, just like snap of a hat, you'll get a new race car and it will get back out on track. And the reason we're doing that for this pilot season is keep as many guys in the race as possible. Maybe you just have an incident that you couldn't avoid for some reason. It's a shame there's not a school for that. But for whatever reason, something happens, you're able to get back in the race, and really gives these people a shot at the money, and that's what we're here for, to have fun, have a good race, and have an exciting time with something on the line. And that's what the Collegiate iRacing League is going to provide here tonight.
Yeah, I think this race is going to come in stages. I think we're going to have an exciting start, and then eventually everyone will get filed out, and we'll settle into our running order, and that might be a couple laps in. And then towards the middle, we'll start thinking about pit stops for these guys, and they'll all be calculating their fuel. Some of them will do it in their heads. Some of them will do it with some more software and overlays and simulations to help accent what they're doing in the car. It is kind of tough to try and do that mental math and corner, especially at this track, a driver's track. It reminds me of Imola in that it's fast. There's not a lot of brakes, and one mistake early on can lead to a set of mistakes through transitions. So we do have to keep in mind that these drivers are balancing a lot. So we'll have that pit stop, and then we will come to the final exciting conclusion at the end of 60 minutes.
So 60 minutes, going to seem like a long time when we take turn one, but we're going to get set to go green here shortly. Going to be a rolling start here at Spa, so all the cars will go through the last couple of corners, and then we'll get you to the green flag here momentarily. Let's run you through our starting grid, sponsored by NextBookIt. Starting on the pole here tonight is the number 54 of Kevin Vu. On his outside, John D. Price in the number 10 machine will take the green flag. Jared Kayer in third. He starts in the 58 machine. And Theodore Burns will roll off fourth. He's in the 81. Aaron Folkert's in the 732. He starts fifth. And Cohen Evans in the 17 starts in sixth. Continuing on down your grid, Drew Bowen will roll off seventh in the number 5. Alexandre Piscini, in the number 22, starts 8th. KT Jones will roll off 9th in the 57, and Brett LeBlanc in the number 3 starts 10th. Zachary Yarnigan starts 11th in the number 12 machine, and on his outside, Abel Osorio Morales in the number 13 machine. Continuing on down the starting grid, Jake Franklin will roll off 13th, and Tillman Schmid on his outside starts 14th. Andrew Koval will roll off 15th, and James Bloch in the number 87 starts 16th. Corey Hyatt in the number 42 will roll off 17th, and Roger Gregory starts 18th. Starting off 19th is going to be James Farquhar. Starting 21st will be Trey Coleman. And rolling off last place here tonight in the number 20 is Cody Vandehauer. And that will round out our field for round 1 at Spa, presented by NextBookIt.
That's exciting, and it looks like the pace car is just starting to roll off. We've got a variety of cars. We've got a variety of paints. Porsches, BMWs, Chevrolets, even saw a couple Ford GTs in the mix. I think this is going to be an exciting display of everything that we've got going on and the variety of cars, what iRacing has put into this simulation, especially recently. And we don't have long before we'll be through the first chicane and into the green flag.
So here we go, pace car gonna roll off. Kevin Vu gonna lead us to the green flag, and he is off in that UC Riverside machine. And he's gonna head down into turn 1 unimpeded, but look at behind him. It is a giant stack up of cars heading into turn 1.
Absolutely. Kevin Vu wastes no time diving into La Source. You can see 2x2 fairly politely. These guys are getting through. That's what we talked about. Everybody staying within track limits. That's where you can run wide. That's one of those points of interest, that first turn. Now down through that left, Eau Rouge, and up and to the right through Radillion, and down the long Kimmel Straight. That's where these drivers are going to check their mirrors, check their settings, stretch their hands, and prepare for the upcoming right, left, right, down through the rest of the second sector.
Get a good look at all the cars right there as they head down that long Kimmel Straight and into that big right-hander, the first kind of slower corner on the track. Everyone single file through the top 10. Everyone giving a lot of space here early, and we'll see if that action starts to pick up here as these guys start to settle it on out.
They are, and they've settled in. We see a little bit of brake smoke there. Nose to tail, your running order is Kevin Vu, John Price, Jared Kaler, Theodore Burns, and Aaron Falkers in your top 5. Cohen Evans, Drew Bowen, Alexander Pacini, KT Jones, and Brett Blanc make up your top 10 as we come around to complete our first lap here.
Kevin Vu going to start in first, and it looks like he's going to lead the first lap in first, should he carry this on. John D. Price in second place, and a good story from Mr. Price here. Josh and I offered livery creations here as part of the Collegiate iRacing League pilot season, and he is actually in one of those created liveries by us. So good to see that paint scheme running out toward the front. We'll see if he stays out front all night long. That'd be awesome to see here in race number 1 at Spa.
Absolutely, and I did notice previously as went through the start, the fast double left-hander called Puhan according on the track. That is where we saw a couple Corvettes with that understeer run wide and may have picked up an incident points. You can think of incident points as fouls in a basketball game. Too many and you're in trouble. Just a few more and you may foul out or may be disqualified. Tonight we'll not be having any disqualified drivers, but there will be drive-through penalties for the first 17 of those. And it looks like we've gotten away without many 4Xs, but it would not be uncommon to have a lot of those penalties or drive-throughs towards the end of the race.
Absolutely. For those of you that might be new to watching iRacing or you're just unfamiliar with it, generally you will get a 1X for going off the track, like Josh said, those track limits, and a 4X for any hard car or car-to-wall contact. Car-to-car, car-to-wall kind of contact. You can get a 2X as well, but those are pretty much very infrequent here. But keep that in mind as you get 1 4X, maybe a couple off tracks. And Spot one of those tracks with kind of these tight track limits. So sometimes you might see cars drift a little bit wide, and it looks like we got trouble there. One of the UNLV cars, I believe, and he's got it turned back around.
I do see that KT Jones, and now it looks like the BMW, the Fruit Loop BMW, has driven to avoid, but some trouble there for KT Jones. He did get that machine going the right way and is headed back down.
Let's take another look at what happened to KT as he's in that Ford UNLV machine, goes wide and just gets it loose, locks it on down, able to avoid everybody else, it looks like. So good to see that right there, and then gets the car spun on around, and he's back in the race. And having this long race, it is going to be good for him as he might be able to undercut a pit stop here later and sneak his way back into that top 10.
That is correct, and you know, it's very easy when you get some confidence. First couple laps, the tires aren't up to full temperature going in at the end of that long Kimmel straight, and it looks like he got in there, maybe had the brake bias a little bit too far back. You know, that's something these drivers will do is push that brake bias rearward as they warm their tires up, and that car can add a little brake to the rear, and that will make it a little bit less stable going to the corners, as you saw there, and that's the result.
Absolutely, and pretty much single file here as everyone's starting to get settled on in, and we had talked a little bit of brake lockup right there from the 13 of Osorio Morales in that yellow and white car that you saw, just getting hard on the brakes into that final chicane, trying to outbrake the driver in front of you, trying to outbrake the driver behind you. And something that we talk about, especially here in road racing, is you like to be that second car in line. You like to be the car that's chasing the car in front of you. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that right now as Jake Franklin in the 83 is really chasing down the 13 right in front of him.
That is correct. He's there in that Worcester Polytechnic car. Slick-looking car, and one of our BMW drivers this evening. And he has one of two choices. He can try and make up time if he thinks he's got the car. He can also hang behind, hang in the draft, especially on some of these longer straights. And we talked about that pit stop. These drivers won't take on tires, but they will take on fuel as we see the lead car check up again under braking. And that'll be a choice that they get to make, is do they want to try and take on less fuel and undercut their opponents, like Jared said.
Absolutely, and all these things playing a factor. We will probably not see anyone get tires here in this race, I would not imagine. Head down pit road, maybe use that fast repair. Fast repair will not repair your tires, just any damage on the car and to the engine. but getting fuel to the end of the race is imperative. And the way they do that is actually a couple different ways. You might be using a different service, such as a crew chief that automatically does the fuel. And some of these drivers might have someone in their ear telling them, I got you, you got 13 gallons, you got however many gallons they need to the end of the race.
That is correct. And we say Alexander Pacini moved by the Worcester machine in that Ferrari. I do wonder, I noticed they've lost the lead car, and does that Worcester car have an issue? Or did he just overheat his tires of Jake Franklin there?
Absolutely. So checking in back on the leader, Kevin Vu out to a good little gap here, and you can see that at the top of your screen. Scrolling across the top, and the top 3 all listed on top permanently. John D. Price almost 3 seconds back now as Kevin Vu trying to pull away, leading 3 out of the first 3 laps, heading on to lap 4.
That is correct, and we can see that there is looking like a little bit of a battle for the second position, and even through the chicane, that's continues to be Jake Franklin as he falls back, and we'll monitor him. But back for second place, we're watching John Price and Theodore Burns compete for that second spot as they go through turn 1 now.
Heading back to turn 1, you're looking in at James Franklin here. He's in that red and white car trying to chase down Corey Hyatt up in front of him. We talked about that hard charger award. Definitely got to start thinking about Mr. Hyatt here. Started in 17th. He's made his way all the way up to 10th already. He's laying down some pretty quick lap times. Last lap at 2:17.9. So he's definitely chasing the top 5 or the top 10, maybe even the top 5 before this race is said and done.
That is correct, and we're going to see guys who are fast at the start, and they may fall off, they may carry their speed, there may be slower cars before in the race that are going to pick up pace and be there at the end. So that'll be something to watch. The pit stop will have an effect. How these drivers manage their tires will have an effect. How much steering input, how much braking input, are they smooth on the throttle? All of these things are going to be amplified at the end of this 60-minute race here.
Absolutely, and maybe we will see drivers take some tires here as we look at the track temp. A blistering 113 degrees Fahrenheit. We apologize to any viewers watching who like the centigrade scale. We're going to do American units here over in Belgium, apparently. 113 on the track, and that's pretty hot, and that might be contributing to a little bit of this oversteer you're seeing in these cars. Those back ends kind of slipping around as these tires still get heated on up, and it's going to chew through the tires pretty quick. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially in that second stint, how drivers' lap times either fall off or they're able to kind of manipulate the car into maybe even turning better with a little less grip.
That is correct. If you can't do it with setup before the race and try and do it with your driving style during the race, you can see there that's certainly an off track. That'll be one incident for the Ferrari of Pacini there as they go side by side into the chicane. Neither driver yielding. Some clean racing there side by side, and it looks like Pacini will have a run off the corner. He got that start further back on the straightaway, and that's going to give him the edge as he goes into turn 1. In fact, maybe not. He may go in behind the 42 machine, who locks up a little bit. The 42 machine will certainly be the leader down into Eau Rouge.
And you saw it right there, just so easy to lock up those tires. And iRacing does not model flat spotting on the tires, so you can lock them up and be pretty A-OK. Well, that's going to wear those front side tires bits and pieces more. And in a 1-hour race, every bit of grip you can get is imperative. As we check back in, big battle going on for second here as Theodore Burns in the 81, that matte black machine, has now chased down John D. Price, and he's looking to pass.
Absolutely. John D. Price from Texas is putting on a show and just trying to stay ahead of, it looks like, the matte black 81 machine. And that is Theodore Burns, our Badger from Wisconsin, representing the Wisconsin and Madison as well as the Big Ten crowd. And he's looking to conserve his tires while he makes a move. He is graduated from Wisconsin a few years ago and is now actually an engineer for IMSA teams and for some Porsche GT3 Cup teams. So a lot of experience, and no doubt has taken that, thrown it in his setup and his driving. And that expertise is showing here for Mr. Burns this evening.
Absolutely, and that's what's so cool about this iRacing setup and what we're trying to bring you guys here with this CIL League, is you can get guys from all over, guys that maybe just want to do iRacing just to do iRacing, or maybe guys that, like Josh just mentioned, worked on cars and they love continuing to work on cars. And that's super cool here. And let's ride on board here with Theodore Burns throughout the first couple of turns here as we head up through Eau Rouge.
Yeah, and that's it. We're going down into La Source now, and then we'll go into Eau Rouge. You can see this is where you kind of go uphill a little bit. You have to slow way down. You'll see he'll get as close to the wall as he can, and then he'll try and come off as straight as he can and go up to the front of Eau Rouge, and it's a quick left and a right. And during this, if you just miss the curb on the left side coming up on the right side and then to the left, right there, it'll miss and it'll kick your car over that curb on the right. That's another X, and that'll be an incident point that we talked about that these guys are trying to avoid. Now, obviously, he's got a great draft, and he'll make a decision on how he wants to size his opponent up as he goes into the second sector here.
Very tight racing between the 81 and the 10. This is one of the closest battles on the track, but another battle going on. Cohen Evans trying to chase down Jared Kayer right in front of him, and a couple of great-looking paint schemes right there. And I feel like we could talk about that all night long, these different paint schemes that these guys have. The UNC Charlotte for Kayer up there in front, and that beautiful, beautiful red and gold machine right behind for Cohen Evans.
Absolutely, and you know, they sent some pictures of those in the Discord, and those were two machines I was looking to see. But we've got the Chevy, we've got the BMW. The BMW is definitely a more stable platform in iRacing. You can see they're right on the limit of Puhan there, trying not to get those incident points. But what I like is the Corvette has speed, has that V8 engine. In fact, the BMW has the turbo V8 engine, and so we'll see if that Corvette can manage the understeer. And he may do very well at the end. And it looks like we do. Jake Franklin, maybe Jake Franklin in that car was turned around for a split second there.
We're checking in on Mr. Franklin, who was up toward the front of the pack a moment ago. And you're watching on a little bit of a replay as he sent it on in real tight and just tries to get on the brakes hard. Sends the back end around. And he gets off the track. Has to wait for traffic to pass. He's going to get back rolling here as you now look at the 83 live. Drop back to 14th. He's trying to chase down Roger Gregory up in front of him. Talked about that serial machine, that 33 up in front. We'll see if they can chase them down just outside the top 10. So a lot of these drivers looking at the money just right in front of them. Can they get those couple extra positions to get that money here tonight?
Yeah, and these guys are running through two BMWs now, chasing each other. We'll see if they can work together. Franklin has started pretty strong, and we'll have to see if he can bring that back under control throughout the race. Still a long race to go. We are 16 minutes into a 60-minute race. That's just under 45 minutes left. So these guys now, they know their fuel usage. They know when they think they want to pit, and so we'll see if they come in at the end of their fuel window or if they come in whenever they can be in traffic, and maybe that helps. There's this race for the lead through, or this race for position through Badillion, and then the race for second heating up as well as Theodore Burns under heavy fire from opponent John Price.
So Burns was in third. He snuck his way around off camera while we were away. Theodore Burns now in a second. Price trying to chase him back down. Price in that UTA machine trying to chase down the Big Tens. Theodore Burns. And that UTA machine, like we mentioned, one of those paint schemes provided by the Collegiate iRacing League here for this race. 6-race season. Spa tonight. And we will race every other week. So you have to wait a week and a half before we tune back, or excuse me, 2 weeks before we tune back in. And the reason behind doing that is because obviously this league is geared a lot toward the college students. So a 1-hour time commitment every 2 weeks was what we deemed fair, and that's why the schedule is what it is currently.
That's right. You can find us here every other Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And we spoke a little bit about that third place car, Theodore Burns. But let's talk about John Price a little bit. No slouch in his own right. Was on the Formula team at UT Austin, 2015 to 2018. and is actually still in engineering and involved in road racing, and hangs out in Dallas, Texas.
So we're going to ride along with Mr. Price here down through turn 1 and up through the hill. And like Josh mentioned, you got to hit every single curb. It might send the car careening away. And on the onboard, on the nose here, you're going to get a good look at how the car's bouncing all over and how they're just hanging on for dear life at times through these corners.
Absolutely. This is an excellent shot. I mean, you can see the car, how it might ebb and flow over those curbs. It's great to grab those curbs. Just want to make sure that it's not upsetting the chassis. I'll also point out an aerodynamic phenomenon that we're seeing, whereas the Ford was able to follow pretty closely behind that Porsche. Now that the roles are reversed, you'll see that that Porsche does not close on the Ford in the same way. That's going to be because the Porsche isn't going to have the same powertrain, it is not going to have the grunt of that EcoBoost engine in the Ford, and also because the teardrop canopy on that Ford, where it is allowing that air to run back in and close in behind the car. When you think about a draft and a slipstream and the lead car punching a hole in the air, the Ford doesn't return the favor because that air transfers through it. And so that is something that will provide an advantage to Ford drivers all season long.
Absolutely. And so I believe we've seen 4 different car manufacturers here tonight. We see the BMW and the Chevy Corvette right here on your screen. Like Josh just mentioned, the Ford and the Porsche battling up in front. So a good wide range of cars as well. The Chevy Corvette C8R was just introduced to iRacing, so you're going to see a lot of guys racing the Chevy, and it is a very fun car. But each car, like Josh just mentioned, has its own quirks. One might be faster on the straightaway, one might be faster in a different part of the track. And what's really cool is you are not bound to one single manufacturer for the entire pilot season. So we might see a guy racing a Chevy tonight, but maybe decide he needs to go to a BMW here in 2 weeks.
Absolutely, and that's the excitement, especially with this pilot series, as everyone involved is learning and seeing what works, and so we'll be seeing a variety of cars all season long, even from similar drivers. We talked about the power of the Ford, the understeer, and the Corvette. The Porsche is in fact very good and may still be the best of the cars at getting through the corners in transition, and so you'll see it excel in places like Sector 2 of Spa, lots of parts of Imola, and even the infield portion of the Daytona Road Course. And like we said, the BMW, very stable all around and very predictable. So for those drivers that we have that are in iRacing for 9 months, 4 months, maybe have been in sim racing but are new to the iRacing model, that's going to allow them to be competitive. And we have actually a very good spread here as we have a battle going down the Kimmel Straight.
It's Drew Bowen getting overtaken by Aaron Folkerts. Folkerts to the inside. He's going to sneak on by. But a good run right there by the 5 machine in that Western Michigan livery. Good looking paint scheme. Might be my favorite scheme of the night here, as Drew Bowen gives the position. And that's kind of a little give and take here, especially in these longer races. You might not want to defend the position, save your tires a little bit, as Bowen gets a little bit loose coming off that corner. But definitely you got to pick your battles here. Save those tires. It's a long 60-minute race. And after that pit stop, you're going to need every single bit of rubber on those tires to really push toward the finish and maybe gain a couple more positions there at the end.
Absolutely. We said Drew Bowen is our Western Michigan guy, and he's been sim racing for less than a year, just like we said, but studies aviation and looking to be a pilot. Also runs karts, X30 and tag karts frequently. So he's no stranger to a racetrack, and I think he's showing that with the performance tonight.
So things starting to settle on out. We'll start looking for pit stops here in about 5 to 10 laps. We'll keep you guys abreast of that. Brett LeBlanc all the way back there in 17th in the number 3 machine. He came down pit lane for a 25-second pit stop. So I don't know if he's undercutting or if he had to get the car fixed on up. But pay attention to that number 3 car as the race goes on.
That is certainly a strategy. Get the pit stop done, out of the way, and cruise while everyone else is sitting up on the jacks. We see Kevin Vu here going through, really minding his own business and in a league of his own. I think it's been a very clean race for him in that UC Riverside car.
Good looking BMW out front here for Kevin Vu, and you see the gap right there between him and Theodore Burns in second. He's just continuing to pull away. And now you really start to think, at what point will he pit? Will we see other drivers go on that same lap? Being a longer lap, that about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, you can kind of change your strategy, maybe stay out a lap or two longer, and then now the person who pitted has to make up quite a bit of time. But Kevin Vu out to almost a 10-second gap on second place. Kevin Vu is having a fantastic race at Spa here tonight.
Absolutely he is, and we will recap. We got Kevin Vu. Theodore Burns stole that second spot from John Price a little bit earlier. Jared Kaler and Cohen Evans, you see, duking it out right there. Then we have Aaron Falkerts, Drew Bowen in that Western Michigan machine that we spoke about, Abel Osorio Morales, Alexander Piccini, who we've seen steadily moving up through the field. We've said his name a couple times, and Corey Hyatt. Finish your top 10.
And those top 10 drivers in the money spot, those drivers getting paid at the end of the race. KT Jones right in 11th. He's trying to pick up another spot, one of those UNLV cars. And we mentioned it off camera a little bit. So cool to see that both UNLV drivers, both riding in the Ford, both riding the same paint scheme. It almost gives you that Formula One type teammate feel. Really cool to see. Unfortunately for KT, his teammate LeBlanc all the way back there in 17th. We saw them running through practice together, doing a little tandem drafting and seeing how that works. And that could be so valuable here. As Josh talked about fuel conservation earlier in the broadcast, if you have a teammate able to work with you, maybe drift back a little bit into that fringe top 10 area. But if you're able to save a little more fuel, take a little less fuel during your pit stop, you're shaving seconds off of your time. And so definitely pay attention to that as we head toward these pit stops.
That is, and you saw poking in the frame right there, Tillman Schmid in that Virginia Tech Corvette. And Tillman was on the Virginia Tech Formula team 2015 to 2019. In fact, he was a driver in his later years. And so there's a driver. In fact, looks like we have a car off. That's the 57 machine, UNLV car.
So KT Jones, we're actually riding on board with him while this occurred, just hard on a brake. And it looks like he had a little bit of help from the number 80 of Schmid. We're going to have to look at that one later, but Schmid might have a little damage to the front end of that Corvette after that one. Drove it in really hard into that final chicane, got into the back end of Jones, sent Jones around, and both cars now back out on the track. We'll have to wait and see if both cars are damage-free after that one. Do remember that they do have those fast repairs should they need them.
They will, so after their pit stops. In fact, it looks like in turn 1, Zachary Yarnigan has just gotten his BMW pointed the proper way. Looks like he lost it under braking. We talked about that rear brake bias. It's not hard to lose it, especially into La Source with that banking transition right there. Pretty understandable, but he got it going the right way, and no other cars involved.
You saw that? Quite an interesting little turn there. And that is that brake bias, like Josh had talked about, that Northeastern car getting sent back on around out there in turn 1. And that is one of the hardest braking corners on the circuit, as well as that final chicane. So you do get, and actually, as we go back live, Yarnigan back in the wall. He's in a little bit of that sand. And the Northeastern car might have a little bit of trouble here as he's trying to limp that thing back around to pit lane.
That's correct. He may have some damage. As soon as you wreck, in fact, it looks like he's going to take another detour. He might go back, get his fast repair. Whenever you do have an issue like that, the first issue, your tires can pick up dirt, pick up little bits of rubber that come off. Those are called marbles that come off the tires of all cars. And so he may have some of that, and then you don't have the same grip going into that next set of turns like he found. So we'll see. I don't see too much damage on that BMW machine. He may choose to take his fast repair now or finish out his fuel window and then take it then.
So that's something definitely to think about as we're getting closer and closer to these pit stops, is when to pit, when's the proper time to pit. We'll see a lot of drivers split the race in half. We'll see some drivers, maybe not tonight as we're heading towards it, but as soon as you reach that window of I can fill the car to get to the end, maybe pit then and just race the rest of the way. But on road racing, a lot of the times you'll see drivers who are engaged in a battle go down pit road and get into that open air. And we can talk about dirty air versus clean air as we look at Theodore Burns and John Price again battling for second and third. And these guys are both battling. That's going to slow them down. And Kevin Vu just continuing to pull away. And that's a byproduct of not only Vu's skill level, but these guys battling. It's slowing each car down just a little bit. So if you're up in the booth there, Josh, are you telling them, hey, we need to start thinking about pitting here soon?
You know, it's a special case. So these guys have been running, and Kevin Vu loves nothing more than to see these guys side by side. But they do, they're smart guys, and I think that they're running nose to tail for some time. I will say that that Porsche has closed that gap since we last checked on them. But it will be a unique situation where these cars have a draft, and if you think about some NASCAR plate racing or anything like that, it might benefit them to work together and just put down some laps, burn that fuel, and try to get to a spot where they can get closer to Kevin or to compete for the second position amongst themselves there closer to the end of the race. But I don't know if I tell them to come in and pit. I would tell them to be smart, hit their marks, and to make sure that they're not spending too much time off the grid.
Absolutely. So check it in back on your leader. Kevin Vu just completed lap number 13. Out of an estimated 27, you do see the lap counter at the top of your screen. It is a time-based lap, so it's 15 laps to go, and that is a best guess based on our graphic department here. Now let's look high up above and see what Kevin Vu is seeing. Beautiful circuit here in Belgium, Circuit de Spa. It was created in 1925, or excuse me, its first Grand Prix was held in 1925. So a lot of history here. You'll see the 24-hour race here. That was back in July that iRacing held that. So a lot of cool races here, and tonight bringing you one of the most recent cool ones, the Collegiate iRacing League, sponsored by NextBookIt, kicking off our debut season here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't think of a better spot. This is a really popular track amongst drivers and iRacing, and in lots of different formats. And I think this is something that guys feel comfortable with, and they're able to race together. You can see Alexander Pacini still hunting down the opponent ahead of him. Those guys, like we said, have been running nose to tail for a while. That's, I think, to their advantage to be just a little bit far back and catch a draft on the straightaways. And he may be waiting behind that Missouri-Columbia machine just for one of them to pit or whenever his pit window comes up.
So the Collegiate iRacing League does provide a way for all these drivers to talk. Obviously, they can talk over the iRacing voice chat, but we also provide a Discord channel so all the drivers can talk freely amongst themselves. So maybe there is some strategy going on between these drivers saying, hey, I'm pitting on this lap. What do you think? And like Josh talked about, having a draft partner can be so key as you're looking at Osorio Morales, Pacini, and Hyatt in 8th, 9th, and 10th. All three of those drivers in the top 10. So it's of their best interest to keep them all in the top 10. So they might say, hey, we're pitting on lap whatever. Let's all pit together. Let's all stay in this slipstream and continue to race until the end in that kind of 3-car train.
Yeah, that's correct, and we're starting to bunch up where we've seen Vu out front by himself, and then we have the Burns and Price battle for second, battle for fourth between Kaler and Evans, and you just said 8, 9, 10 consists of those guys there. And so, in fact, it looks like we have our first pit entrance, and I believe that was the Ferrari of Pacini. He'll get it. Go ahead.
You hear the pit alarm going off, and Pacini going to head down pit lane. He is the second car to visit pit lane here tonight, and it's a longer pit lane here at Spa, the Grand Prix pits. So you do got to get in and get out as quick as possible. Not the longest pit configuration here at Spa, but still a pretty big one as he's going to get service on that car. And Jake Franklin, excuse me, also heading down pit lane. So we're going to see pit stops underway here in the next couple laps.
Absolutely. It looks like it's that time, and it makes sense. In ILMS, about halfway through, you start seeing cars dive to pit lane, and that's what we're seeing now. 30 minutes into the 60-minute race. Kevin Vu out front, saving fuel, saving tires, and you can see these other guys behind him are starting to come to pit lane.
So we talked about incident points a little bit earlier. 17 gets you a drive-through penalty, and a couple drivers starting to get close to that point. Corey Hyatt in the 42, he's at 12. Alexander Piccini, you saw him head down pit lane a moment ago. He's at 12. Zachary Yarnigan also at 12. So if those drivers get a couple more, they're in a tough spot. They're going to have to take that drive-through penalty and head down that long pit lane at pit speed, and that's going to kill your lap time. As Kevin Vu going to stay on out, and he might be heading toward his first lapped car of the night. The number 87 of James Bloch.
That is correct, and we'll see a lot of both lap traffic and traffic with differing tire pressures, tire temperatures as we go through the pit cycle. But you would expect that Vu would come up on lap traffic here. You see as that Corvette makes its way up through Radillion and down the Kimmel Straight. Vu will have to figure out when he would like to pit. Probably will pit before he catches that car, but when he comes out, there may be other cars. It looks like we have another car that is, looks like the red and yellow machine of the Corvette on pit road.
Cohen Evans in the number 17 heads to pit lane. He's getting that car serviced. He did not go in with his drafting partner there, Aaron Folkerts. Folkerts ends up staying out, and now there's a gap in between a bunch of those cars. So we'll see if that shakes anything on up.
Yeah, we will have to see if that changed anything or if their lap times slow down outside the draft. One thing we can also look for is mistakes, incidences, off tracks, and accidents after the pit stop where tires are worn, drivers are in a rhythm, and they forget that they've just added 50, 75 pounds of fuel in that car, whether it be over the rear axle or the front axle, depending on your engine configuration. And that's something that we'll have to monitor as we go through pit stops here.
Absolutely, those tires will cool down, so you might see a couple of the drivers get a little bit more loose, as those warm tires on the warm racetrack will give you a good amount of grip, but once they've cooled off a little bit, you need to spend about a lap or so to warm them back on up. So we'll definitely pay attention to that. And this battle for second continuing to rage all night long. Theodore Burns and John Price just neck and neck all night long. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see this come all the way down to the start-finish line here at the end. John Price had held on to second for quite a while, turned it over to Theodore Burns not too long ago. But still staying in his draft, still keeping up with the Ford. So we'll see if Mr. Price has what it takes to take down Theodore Burns for second.
That's correct, and I think that the best guy in position will be the second car in this train. So whoever is in third will be able to see how they want to size up their opponent and what they want to do, where they want to make their move. I would expect it would be after Blanchimont into the final chicane, but we will see what these guys decide.
So very good pit stop for the 17 of Cohen Evans. He had come in while he was in the top 5, and he only dropped back to 9th, so he is the top driver who's already come down pit lane for service. So pay attention to the 17 as he's trying to accomplish a bit of an undercut here, pitting in front of all the leaders, and he's going to try and stay out and stay in that clean air and gain as much ground as he can in these next couple laps.
That's great, and there's so many ways to lose time on pit road. Slowing down too much, not attacking the pit entrance, especially at Spa, getting caught up in the pit entrance, since the pit lane speed limit doesn't start until you're halfway down, as you saw a couple times in the broadcast, partway down that lane, and then using your pit limiter, turning the limiter off quickly, not slipping, coming onto the track you see there on the right. Those are all factors that can hinder drivers from keeping that top spot, and excellent job by that driver to make the most of it.
Absolutely. So we're looking in at KT Jones and Tillman Schmid. They had a little bit of a tiff earlier as Schmid got into the back end of Jones there in the final chicane a little bit earlier, sending the 57 around. But it looks like both drivers have recovered well. Jones in 10th, Schmid in 11th. Both drivers have not gone down pit lane yet. So you got to imagine after they do, the cars will get even more fixed on up and they'll be able to challenge for that top 10 spot. Jones in 10th right now, so he's in the money spot, but don't be surprised if we see Jones maybe challenge for 9th, even 8th before this is said and done.
Yeah, these guys certainly aren't going to be satisfied with anything less than first. That's going to be tough with Vu on track and that BMW, but I think we can expect good racing throughout. We've had a lot of good close racing in the top 10 and back through even 20th and beyond the position.
Absolutely, and we start thinking about the start of the race and just how clean it ended up being. You really don't know quite what you're going to get, especially in a race like this, our first race of a pilot season. You don't quite know all the guys you're racing with. You don't know how they're going to send it into turn one, and to their credit, we had a fantastic start to this race. No big pileups, no big incidents. That's a true testament to a bunch of these driver skills here tonight.
Absolutely. We've got the best talents behind the wheel. They've been putting in work both in practice. The league has been hosting some practices, and then these guys have been practicing of their own accord. So they're out here. They want to compete, and they want to get better. And we're going to watch as Theodore Burns, looks like we're going to come up on some lap traffic right now. That's the red Corvette. It looks like that's James Bloush. Representing Chico State here tonight in the 87 machine. And he is currently scored in 19th, the first car one lap down.
So we've gone through the top 10 relatively recently. Let's take you through the rest of the field here tonight. Brought to you by NextBookIt, starting with Roger Gregory out there in 12th. We saw Gregory involved in a little bit of an incident earlier. Looks like the front end of that BMW with a tiny bit of damage. But the 33 machine up to 12th has not gone down pit lane just yet. And we'll see if Gregory can make his way up through the field before this one's over. Alexandre Pacini, he has come down pit lane already for his pit stop 3 laps ago. And the 22 machine, one of another really good-looking paint scheme here tonight. That white base with that kind of chrome blue and gold. Really good-looking car as the 22 machine makes his way down the straight.
It certainly is, and we don't have a lot of Ferraris in this field tonight, but he's representing them well. Pacini, an acoustical engineering student from Santa Maria Federal University, another one of our West Coast racers for the evening, and doing them proud here this evening.
So continuing on down your list, Brett LeBlanc right back there in 14th. He just passed the number 35 of Covell, and let's take a look at that pass very quickly. As the 35 machine might have gotten into a little bit of the grass. The 3 goes around the long way. And the 35 pulls on over, gets right back in that draft. But Brett LeBlanc, we saw the number 3 have a little bit of trouble, spun out, got down pit lane, got the car fixed on up. And LeBlanc making his way back through the field, trying to catch his teammate KT Jones, both UNLV racers. I think racers we need to keep an eye on for the rest of the season.
I do think so, and I think we had a spot of sportsmanship there from that Porsche. Sometimes, we do slip, and there is mistakes, and I think he saw the difference in speed. I think he let him by, and it's to both of their benefit to be able to work together. We talked about the draft. We talked about staying in line, and no need to throw many defensive moves on there. I think they made a smart choice, and they're marching forward now.
So continuing on through your field, we mentioned Andrew Covell, another one of those drivers who requested a paint scheme through the Collegiate iRacing League. He's representing San Jose State University there, as he's going to dip on out. A little bit of internet issue there for the 35 machine. But Mr. Covell, an aerospace engineer, graduated in 2017, and he was also another one of those drivers who participated in the Formula SAE. And we saw his car, actually, his paint scheme tonight is designed like his car that he drove in that Formula SAE championship.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great-looking car, and he's doing well here tonight. We see him bounce over the curve in Redillion. We talked about that is a tough place. If you hit it just wrong, you can get bounced over across the track and even lose control. And we've seen a number of cars, not tonight actually, but in the tire barrier.
So continuing on down your grid, Tillman Schmid, he had come down pit lane. He was in front of these guys and now has bounced back in that Virginia Tech machine. And right in front of him, I think Covell, as soon as we looked away, got, yep, there you go, up and over the barrier and into the tire barrier, just like we were just talking about. And the San Jose State car going to limp that thing back around the pit lane and give up a couple of positions. So we return to Tillman Schmid in the number 80 in that Virginia Tech machine. Good looking paint scheme right there. I'm always a fan of those Virginia Tech colors. And you see the little body style on the side of the Corvette here. Really cool look that he's got there with the VT logo next to the number and the American flag. And that's what's so cool is Trading Paints provides the ability for these drivers to express their creative freedom. And a lot of these guys doing a very good job of it here tonight.
Yeah, it totally is. So a couple notes there. It looks like the Columbia Porsche that we were just seeing in a tight battle has entered pit lane. And Tillman Schmid now is up in the northeastern part of the United States, enjoys dirt track racing, but also working as a reusable plastic design engineer. And we can look to him for saving the world, especially as we go through these environmental times.
Zachary Yarnigan, we mentioned him a little bit earlier. We saw him have a little bit of trouble there. He's got the CRL logo on the side of that machine. He's back there in 15th in the number 12. He's yet to come down pit lane, so once he does, that machine going to get fixed on up, and he'll get a couple extra seconds shaved off every single lap, I'm sure, with that lessened damage. In 16th is Jake Franklin. We saw him a little bit earlier. Just a little bit of trouble in that WPI machine. He just went a lap down to your leader, Kevin Vu. The top 4 have not come down pit lane just yet.
That is correct, and so that is going through Blanchimont and down into the chicane. Tight chicane, and the best way is, you can see he grabs a little bit of curb there, upsets the chassis, but the best way to get through there is to get the car as straight as you can, going down the straightaway. The more time that you're not spent, as we see Vu on pit lane now, finally making his pit stop, getting some pretty good mileage in that BMW M8.
And it looks like Theodore Burns going to join the party. Jared Kayer, who slid in a third, he will join as well. We'll see if the number 4 spot of Aaron Folkerts also joins. They will. The top 4 all on pit lane.
Absolutely. Pit lane is the place to be, and the question is, who will come out first? You would expect Vu, who had such a large lead, to lead the way out. Looks like Kaler is already on his way out. Vu now re-entering the track.
Came in your leader. We'll see. It looks like he's going to retain the lead, and that shows you just how big of a lead Vu built over the course of those first 20 laps. Still about 7 to go, 16 minutes to go on the clock right now. A good little race shaping up for second. John Price might have undercut Theodore Burns on the pit road.
John Price with a little bit of strategy. We wondered where he went when Burns came on, but he's flying up and he's going down the Kimmel Straight now, and I think that he will take that second position from these guys. We'll have to see how it all shakes out. In fact, there you can see behind him is Burns, and we'll confirm that when we cross the line and go through the scoring loops next time by.
So Burns in 3rd, Kayer 4th, Evans 5th, Folkerts in 6th. He's going to try and sneak by the lapped car right here. That San Jose State machine at 35 of Andrew Koval. Right behind him, Drew Bowen in that Western Michigan machine. I said it once, and I'm going to stick with it. My favorite paint scheme of the night. The number 5 machine having a good little run here. And now everybody except Zachary Yarnigan has come down pit lane. And we'll see if we see Yarnigan on this lap, and we will.
He is in. Just misses the tires on entry. And, boy, for a driver who was running by himself, solo, you do wonder what made him stay out. If you think you're running those lap times and you have some aero damage, might make sense to come in, get that fixed, especially with a fast repair, and pick those lap times up. But he's in now getting fresh fuel, and will be on his way shortly.
So Kevin Vu out to a 11-second gap, 12-second gap. Like we mentioned, that scoring loop going to get updated as these cars cross the line here He's got 12 seconds on John D. Price in second spot. We'll see if he can hold on. I would imagine with about 8 laps to go as he hits the stripe. 14 minutes on the clock here at Spa.
That is correct, and we're starting to think about where our battle's going to be and how can drivers position themselves to be in a spot to race. Looks like right now KT Jones and Cohen Evans fighting closely as they go through the second sector of this track. A little bit of lockup there to try and get the best spot they can and the best finish they can. KT Jones in 8th, and Drew Bowen behind him in 9th.
They're looking at the 57 right here of KT. And we've seen Osorio Morales up in front of him. Lock up the brakes quite a bit in that Porsche. He's going to defend the inside here. We'll see if he throws a block. Not just yet. KT Jones up to the outside. A little bit of brake lockup right there. Jones going to try and get a good run off the end of the chicane here. Can't do it just yet. And Osorio Morales continuing to just kind of lock up those brakes. And we'll see him defend the inside right here. He dives to the bottom, holds that inside line, forcing the 57 up to the top side. And look who's right behind the 57. It's his teammate, the number 3 of Brett LeBlanc.
And Brett LeBlanc has the best seat in the house. These two are side by side, and they've got to figure it out before Eau Rouge and Radillion. They'll go up through the S's together, side by side. They'll lose a ton of time during that. And it looks like they will come out unscathed on the other side of the Kimmel Straight, the Ford giving the room.
And you see the slipstream right here. LeBlanc closing on into KT Jones and Osorio Morales. And we'll see if the UNLV cars start to work together or if it's every man for himself at this point in the race, as the two Fords going to be very good on the straightaways. Josh had talked about it. But don't sleep on the Porsche right in front of him. We haven't seen a lot of those here in the race tonight. He continues to lock up the brakes, but it is working for him up there in the 13.
Absolutely. A couple notes. So the drivers behind are going to take notes on where he can lock those brakes up and where they think they can pounce. Also, the Porsche is going to excel through these faster curves with its little bit lighter weight, a little bit less power. And we'll see the Fords when we get to those longer straightaways. And I would expect those UNLV cars perhaps to work together, pull out, form a draft. We have to, oh my goodness, and through the S's there is one, that is the 57 car, KT Jones. And the victory will be up to his teammate in the 3 car, Brett LeBlanc, if they choose to do that.
Let's take a quick look at what just happened here. KT down to the inside. And just got a little bit of the grass that turns the car around, really unsettles it. Grass almost like ice here in iRacing. But KT Jones tried to sneak around the inside. And you see back live, it looks like LeBlanc able to sneak by Osorio Morales. But that's what you get. You start seeing that timer tick on down. KT Jones just getting impatient. And a big lockup right there by Morales as he overdrives the chicane completely. And now KT Jones going to have a shot here.
Absolutely, and maybe that was the teamwork we didn't expect, but when that first UNLV car of KT Jones went flying, that slowed that Porsche down of Osorio Morales. And so when he slowed down, went to the high side, it was as easy as driving through for Brett LeBlanc. And so Brett LeBlanc now leads this pack, and it looks like Osorio Morales following him, and KT Jones, who kicked things off the previous lap, following right behind him. It looks like a wide car right there at the top of Radillion.
Not quite sure who that was. We're going to try and get that to you here shortly as we take one more look at it from KT Jones's car. You see that VCU machine lock those brakes on up, and that might be Trey Coleman in the number 1. Excuse me, it's the number 20 machine.
And that is the number 20 machine of Cody Fadenauer. He is one of the VCU teammates, similar to UNLV. They've painted their cars together. But we've talked about that tonight, and that's surprisingly the first time we've seen that is getting over, bouncing between sides of those S's, going uphill through the elevation change, where the weight leaves those tires, and that's the result.
So something to note, we mentioned the incident counter, and here comes KT Jones around the outside battling with Osorio Morales. And KT Jones at 17 incidents, he might have to serve a drive-through penalty here. And Osorio Morales at 16, so if he goes off the track once, he's going to have to serve a penalty. Also drivers in that danger zone, Corey Hyatt in 8th, he's at 15 incidents. And Alexandre Pacini, he's at 14 incidents as he sits in 9th.
Absolutely. Those are huge, and that's what guys are going to worry about as they try to push. That's going to prevent them. And in fact, I think Osorio Morales might have just picked up his 17th by going across, and he did, and has locked up the wheels. KT Jones will loop it in the chicane, and both of these drivers not giving an inch, perhaps overdriving their machines a little bit. And you can see how quickly Morales brought his car back. Osorio Morales knew that he had picked up that 17th point. So we'll see what the ramifications are for these guys. In fact, I think the Ford has chosen to serve his penalty at this juncture, given he was stopped in front of the pit entrance there with his change in direction.
LeBlanc coming down pit lane. He's going to pick up his teammate KT Jones. LeBlanc did not have 17 incident points, but KT Jones did. We mentioned Morales, so expect to see him down pit lane as well, and that might shake up the top 10. And you got to imagine drivers like Tillman Schmid in 11th and Roger Gregory in 12th might be seeing that out in front of them, and they got to push, and they got to push now.
Exactly. It's time. Our ticker says 5 laps to go. I don't even know if we'll get that far. I know that we have about 5 minutes left in this race. Kevin Vu is the only one in a comfortable position right now. Everybody else is not too far removed from great victory or disaster. We talked about this battle for a second. You can see John Price leading Theo Burns there, and it does not look like Theo Burns is going to be having the material in the machine to catch him to close this one out.
And that pit strategy maybe going to pay off tonight for John D. Price. Pitted 1 lap earlier than Theodore Burns did. You see that last lap speed on that top 10 as well. Half a second faster as Theodore Burns, but can he close in the right spots? Or will that Porsche stay out in second spot as this race winds on up? Finishing 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in this one.
Yeah, and that undercut might have just been what Price needed to shake his opponent of that draft. They were right tight together when they were nose to tail, but after the pit stop and he had that out lap to get some separation, that may be what he needs.
Another fun battle that's transpired really all night long. Jared Kayer in the 58, Cohen Evans in the 17. Both of these guys really been battling all night long, nose to tail almost the entire race, even while pitting on different laps. Evans pitted 9 laps ago, Kayer 4 laps ago. So awesome to see how you can do different strategies and still end up in the same place when the race is said and done.
Absolutely, and we can follow through the field. Lots of good battles going on here. Even Osorio Morales and now Tillman Schmid have found each other as they come up through Rouge onto the straight. And we will expect to see that Corvette close up behind that Porsche along the straight with the aerodynamic advantage. And then it should be exciting to see who of these two will succeed to the end.
5 minutes to go on the timer. And we do expect to see Osorio Morales down on pit lane in this next lap to serve that drive-through penalty. We mentioned KT Jones having to do that as well. He's dropped back to 14th now. And his teammate Brett LeBlanc just behind these guys. A little bit of lockup right there from Schmid in the number 80 as he's trying to track down Osorio Morales. And this is when having a crew chief is so critical to some of these guys, as you see this driving going absolutely insane right now, side-by-side action here. And he might, crew chief would be able to tell you he has to have a drive-through penalty, but the number 80 choosing to go around the organic way, and he's going to try and sneak up into that 10th spot.
Absolutely. Tillman Schmid wastes no time in that Virginia Tech machine. The Hokie just decided he was going to put 2 on the grass and 2 on the track and held it square, and saw him through there. As long as you have 2 wheels on the track, that is legal. It did not exceed track limits. Awesome move there. In fact, you can see, rightly so, he didn't waste any time because you can already see the gap to the Porsche behind him. And he's got some speed left in that car, and he is on a mission.
Schmid up into that 10th spot, that final money spot outside of the Hard Charger Award. So the number 10, or the number 80 in 10th, in a pretty good spot now if he can hold on. He's 22 seconds behind 9th, so he's got a lot of ground to make up here in about 3.5 minutes. But we'll see if Morales heads to pit lane, and he will, and clips the wall on his way to pit road. And that's going to open up the gap even further to Schmid back there in 10th.
He will. We'll see where he comes out. I do believe that he should have a fast repair left. I don't believe he had reason to use it at the first pit stop. So that will be his race sorted, and we resume our battle for what I believe is 4th place.
That is correct. The 58 still holding off the 17. Keep in mind that the 58 pitted 5 laps later than Cohen Evans in the 17. 3 minutes to go as of right this moment. We'll see if these guys really start to pick it up in these final couple laps.
That is correct. We can expect to focus on this battle and the battle ahead as we come down. 3 laps to go, according to our J deadlift ticker up on top as we go through Blanchimont. And we will go through down, a number of off-tracks for our drivers there. Coming up to the chicane, got to figure out when the other driver is going to brake. Will they defend? And it looks like they'll go straight ahead and follow each other down into La Source, exiting the chicane.
Couple more drivers in jeopardy of hitting that 17 right before the finish line. Drew Bowen, Corey Hyatt, and Alexandre Piccini, all with 15 incident points, so pay attention to those drivers as well.
Absolutely, and we can see the gap here between Price and Burns really starting to stretch out, and I think these two have all but had it for the race. You can see they're even separated by one of the VCU machines, the BMWs there. In fact, he's going to give way so that those two can continue their battle to the checkered flag coming up here.
Kevin Vu in the 54 started on pole, immediately pulled away, and he's had a fantastic race in that UC Riverside BMW. Has only had 3 incident points, so a very clean race. His best lap, a 2:14.9. That's almost a second and a half faster than second fastest at what I believe is a 2:16.0 in John D. Price.
Absolutely, and we've seen these guys in practice. We know Price was fast. Haven't seen too much of Vu in the CIL practices, but he's been doing it on his own time. He is a master here at Spa, and I do believe that he is coming across as we've gone over now the 1 hour mark in this race. We will expect him to receive the white flag when he comes out of the chicane.
Coming down this very quick and very fast left-hander right here, coming up on lap traffic. I believe that's the 87 of Bloch that he's approaching. He'll probably reach here, possibly in Eau Rouge, as he's going to come to the start-finish line for the white flag here at the round 1 at Spa. Crossing the start-finish line. And the white flag in the air.
That is correct. The Chico State car will give way. Vu keeps it to the inside. Might be worth noting that Osorio Morales did not use his fast repair on his last stop and does have a tad of front-end damage on the right side of his splitter where he touched that wall. But we follow this battle to the conclusion. UNC Charlotte and looks like the Corvette
of Indiana Purdue.
And those guys will go down now to Eau Rouge and up through onto the straight. And it looks like we can see the Corvette. Both of these cars are going to be heavy and big power, and so it might come down to the draft here on this straight, this backstretch.
We're going to stay locked in on this battle, the closest battle on the track. Evans in the trail car, Kayer in front. Evans thinks about sending it to the inside, doesn't do it just yet, holds on to it. Car wanted to break loose just a bit, and they're coming up on lap traffic as well. Let's see how that pans out.
Absolutely, they'll go down now into the second sector. It's a long, sweeping right hand. It's a slow right hand. And we see that Panther reaching out, and he's just trying to get to the back of that Charlotte car. Kaler defending as best, and looks like lap traffic will hold us up. Now he's going to let us by down, and we are going to be side by side into the following turn here.
1 hour of a race coming down to the last lap for a couple of these guys, battling for that 4th position. Who's going to take it? Right now, Kayer in the top spot, still defending. Here comes Evans to the low side. Doesn't do it just yet. Good defense right there by Kayer.
Absolutely, and they'll go through the fast left-hander. Make sure to manage the understeer down to this double right-hander onto the long backstretch. Closing the gap is that Corvette as they come on through. Try not to exceed track limits. Now, power down onto the backstretch. Blanchimont to go, then the chicane, and we will see what happens here as they size each other up. Who will go right? Who will go left? How will the BMW defend? That's what we have left to see in the last final part of this lap.
Corvette almost going wide. BMW selecting that inside groove. He's going to defend, try and make the Corvette go around the outside. Later braking there by Evans in the Corvette. He's going to try and get the quarter panel of the BMW. Can't do it. Gets off the corner just a little bit squirrely, and Jared Kaler going to hold on to that 4th position. Great race between him and Evans, showing each other a bit of respect right there at the finish line. And your winner of the season opener, Kevin Vu, leading 27 of 27 laps here tonight. The 54 UC Riverside BMW heading to victory lane here at Spa.
Absolutely, and a little battle between Osorio Morales and his opponent. Vu, the inaugural winner of the race here at Spa and the Collegiate iRacing League Series and Pilot Season. And we'll get him, hopefully, in the broadcast and the booth if we can here. Great race by these guys, and they're going down their cool-down lap. We'll collect their thoughts as we can throughout the week and hear what we need to. And absolutely great race at Spa. Jarrett, tell us what you think. We had everything. We had the start. We had a clean start. We had a clean finish. We had pit stops. We had accidents, incidences. We talked about incidents and penalties, and that came into effect occasionally as well. And we had everything here this evening.
Absolutely, and we even had pit strategy. We saw a couple guys go. John T. Price and Theodore Burns. We saw Price go 1 lap earlier, and 1 lap made a difference of about 2 seconds for Price and Burns. And just incredible how 1 lap race can go all the way down to that at the end. And that's just absolutely incredible there. Cohen Evans and Jared Kaler congratulating each other after the fact in the Discord as well. So great to see a lot of sportsmanship between the drivers as well. Hope that all you guys watching here at home enjoyed as well. We're trying to get you the top 3 here into the booth here shortly as they finish up their cool down lap. You see them all right there. Great racing from all of them. I was really impressed with the amount of clean racing we got. We saw a bunch of side-by-side battles here all night long, and that was truly a joy to see, especially in the first race of a pilot season in a series like this. So absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that we had, I'll take that battle we followed to the end. 2 cars heading into the chicane at Spa. As we see Kevin Vu having a little bit of fun right there. And I think he's earned it, especially with his performance this evening. We would expect, it wouldn't be that uncommon in an iRacing race to have those 2 cars upside down in the runoff area. But they were clean, the Corvette and the BMW into the corner. Able to give each other space, give each other room, side by side. Nothing, not even net code in that corner. So fantastic race by these guys from the top to the bottom of the field. They've outdone themselves this evening.
Absolutely, and it looks like we got a couple of drivers ready to talk to us here tonight. And the first driver into the booth is going to be your second place finisher, John D. Price. So John, first of all, give us your reactions to the race. What an amazing race it was to watch up here in the booth. Was it as good down there on the track?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun on the track. These guys are really fun to race with. I'm happy that I can say that they're really clean racers so far in the season. And turns out the strategy was pretty important today. I guess I just took on a little bit less fuel than the guy behind me, and that really worked out for me in the end.
That's awesome. Did you feel like the Porsche had an advantage in the cornering sections of the track, either sector 2 and 3?
Right, good question. You know, it was better in some places for sure. I think that last chicane, it had a little bit better on. It was a little bit better under brakes, but the rest of the lap, I was struggling pretty hard. I think Theodore had a little bit more pace than me most of the race, and obviously got to give credit to Kevin. He just absolutely dominated out there. Incredible performance from him. Super consistent, no mistakes, amazing pace. That's going to be the target probably the rest of the season, I would bet.
I would think so. We would think so. And I think that Kevin, will speak with him shortly. I think he had 3 incident points across that 60-minute run. So stellar job from him, and a stellar job from yourself. I got to tell you, we were thoroughly entertained watching you guys compete for the better part of that hour.
Awesome. Glad to hear you enjoyed it. Yeah, 3 incidents. That's impressive from him, because I think I ended up with about 13 by the time I finished. So I was trying to use all the track I could and take advantage of that, but still nowhere close to Kevin.
Absolutely. Well, John, the floor is yours. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast before we send you on your way?
Oh, absolutely. So I'd like to first shout out all my friends at UTA, all the guys I worked with on the team from there. I also would like to give a big shout out to Team Hardway Racing. Appreciate you guys helping me throughout all this stuff. And anybody else watching, I know I've got quite a few friends watching this too. So thanks to everybody. And thanks to you guys for setting this up. It's been so much fun so far. Awesome communication, awesome stuff all the way through.
Well, thank you very much. And, it's drivers like yourself and your opponents that make it possible. So thank you for coming out.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
All right, that was John D. Price that we talked with right there, your second place finisher. And now let's bring in what everyone wants to hear from, the winner of tonight's race, Kevin Vu, joining us, leading 27 of the 27 laps. Kevin, talk to us about that race from your perspective.
It was pretty, it's good from the start. I tried to, create a gap, try to get John and get everyone out of my draft and just try to, hold consistent laps. I've just practicing through this track. It's helped, but mainly it was just, the school being behind me.
Well, that's awesome. And we did see your UC Riverside paint scheme looking solid all night long. Tell us a little bit. So you, I think, had one of the smallest amount, just 3 incident points across that entire hour-long race. How did consistency, smoothness, and cleanliness factor into your win tonight?
Practicing. So normally I do this in an endurance setting because that's mainly what I do. So trying to keep the off tracks down to the minimum is usually my main goal. So just practicing where I can push and where maybe I want to back off on some occasions. Definitely towards the end with the tires, I was definitely lifting on some occasions. I just wanted to keep it on the track more than put it onto a curb and maybe spin into a wall. So other than that, just trying to stay on track and keep moving in a forward direction.
Well, you certainly went forward all the way to victory lane. Congratulations again on that, on your inaugural win and the inaugural race of the Collegiate iRacing League. Feel good about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for hosting this.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, the floor is yours. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to here on the broadcast before we send you to victory lane?
Everyone here who's participated today, I'm really thankful that, so many people came out to support their universities. Other than that, I just want to thank my actual racing team, Lithium Motorsports, and Calith Racing Team. Those are the 2 teams I race for. Definitely, Lithium has taught me, the endurance side, being able to be consistent, keep the off tracks to a minimum, and the Callith Racing team for, making me bring out my pace when it matters.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic run here tonight, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you again soon. Enjoy the victory tonight, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
So really you can just hear the excitement in his voice right there, the smile coming out of his voice. And that's so cool to see here tonight. Not only is he going home with a little bit of prize pool in his pocket, but winning the first race in a league like this where it's just starting. It's the pilot season. We're kicking everything off. How cool is that to be that winner, you think, Josh?
I think that's fantastic. I think that feels good. Anytime you can, show up to a new arena and go first and get that first W, I think that is, confidence builder. I think that's a good experience. I think that's a story you can tell your buddies, and it'll feel good tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. So last into our booth here is going to be the number 81 of Theodore Burns. Theodore, you got a copy there?
Yes, I do.
Alrighty, so take us through the pit stop. You saw John Price out in front of you when you came out. Did you think you had a little bit for him there at the end, or how did that pit strategy sort of play itself out in your eyes?
Yeah, so I definitely took way too much fuel there. I was trying to do the strategy and calculations in my head during the race, trying to defend John, and I guess I took a little bit too much. I ended up with like 4 gallons left at the end, so overshot a bit there, and that's where I lost a couple seconds. And I was pushing hard, trying to catch him at the end there, and I thought I may have a chance, but the last couple laps I just started going a little bit too deep for the tires and sliding out sideways, and just couldn't quite get to him. He ran a great pace.
Yeah, do you feel like, and we spoke a little bit to him about the Porsche and his car choice for the race, do you feel like the Ford was a good choice for the race? We saw you close the gap a couple times, especially under draft, and it didn't return the favor very well to him. Looked like it gave you an advantage. Do you feel like that was advantage enough if you didn't have the extra fuel at the pit stop?
Yeah, for sure. I did a little bit of testing prior to the race, comparing some of the cars, and I knew the Porsche was down in straight line speed. It felt really balanced in in all the corners, but I just couldn't quite get the overall lap time I could with the Ford. So that's the car I went with, and so I knew I had that straight line speed advantage. So I tried to, especially early in the race, make my move, at the end of Kemmel Straight when I had a draft and all of it. But and he was definitely tough in the twisty parts, and it was hard to keep up with them or keep them behind me in there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looked like it. You guys had us thoroughly entertained all evening long.
So one more question for you before we send you on your way. So take us through what it's like joining a race like this where you don't quite know anyone in the league. We don't quite know the skill level, how the different drivers are going to drive. Going into that turn 1 for the first time ever, are you looking in your rearview mirror, and then how surprised were you when we single filed and then had the race we had here tonight?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of unknowns coming into it. Didn't quite know what to expect or what the pace would be. And definitely going into turn 1, I gave it a little bit more room. Took a little bit wider line than I would in a typical race, and just gave a little look in the mirrors and lifted a little early, but didn't quite hit the brakes if I didn't have to, and just rolled on through. And definitely the first couple laps was kind of feeling everyone out, getting a good feel for for how the race is going to go from there. And I think it was at least up front there, it was a great field, and it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, great to hear. Well, the floor is yours. Anyone you want to give a quick shout out to here on the broadcast before we send you on your way?
No, I'd like to thank you, Josh, and Jarrett for putting this on. It's I think greatly organized, and glad to see so many people in here. And thanks again, guys. It's a great time.
Glad you enjoyed it, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
That was Theodore Burns, your third place finisher. And as we start to wrap things up here tonight, our first race of this league, I think it was successful. Great race here tonight. And we had clean racing, we had pit strategy, and we had a leader who's proven that he's got what it takes and drivers who want to take him down. So from me, I think we had a successful first night and definitely nothing to shake our heads at here tonight.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were entertained. I was watching Twitch chat. They were entertained as well with the diversity of cars we had, the diversity of drivers. The performance that these college students and alumni were able to put on, and it was absolutely cool to see the different schools go head to head and see everything that we had. Certainly some great racing, some great racecraft from these guys, some respect. We talk about the space that we had, especially in the closing laps, where we were battling for second, fourth, even back on through the pack. And so I think we have more of that. Obviously, we'll get a little bit cleaner and better as we go throughout the season. Tons of good things we learned tonight, and only more excited for the next round at Monza.
Absolutely. And where would we be without NextBookIt for sponsoring tonight's race and us all season long? So we're going to send it over to our message from NextBookIt. We'll hear from them, and then we'll go through the results here for round 1 at Spa, and we'll be back with you in about 30 seconds time.
For college students, books are expensive. Buying and selling them is frustrating, and it even hurts. We get it, but there's a better way that doesn't have to feel like this. With NextBookIt, skip the bookstores and buy and sell books exclusively to other students on any campus. It's easy to use, and it makes life less stressful. Buying and selling books just got easier. Just NextBookIt.
So a really awesome thing that NextBookIt has going on there. Like you saw just now, it's that marketplace where you can buy and sell textbooks to other students all across the country, which is very cool. And like we mentioned, there's a couple incentives to really sell your books. NextBookIt, for a limited time, is offering an extra $10 on top of what you're going to make for your first book sale. I could use $10. $10 is going to buy you a racetrack here on iRacing. So check that out and make sure to use the code SAVECASH20. That's SAVECASH, SAVECASH20, and you're going to get free shipping and no fees on your order. So what are you waiting for? NextBookIt this fall.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. For our drivers, our fans, everybody involved. So absolutely, thank you to NextBookIt. They make this possible, and they make it possible to put more drivers in cars here. We talked about the various ways they're doing that at the top of the broadcast, and they are a fantastic group.
Absolutely. So let's wrap this thing up and go through your results here of round 1 at Spa, presented by NextBookIt. Kevin Vu coming away with the victory. John D. Price in second. Theodore Burns finishes third. Jared Kayer in fourth. Cohen Evans in fifth. Aaron Folkerts finishes sixth. Drew Bowen in seventh. Corey Hyatt in eighth. And Alexandre Pacini in ninth, and Tillman Schmid comes away 10th. Brett LeBlanc will finish 11th, Jake Franklin in 12th. Abel Osorio Morales, we saw him have to take that pass-through penalty late in the race. He finishes 13th. Roger Gregory comes away 14th. Zachary Yarnigan finishes 15th. KT Jones, we saw him just have a couple late race incidents really affect the 57. He finishes 16th. Trey Coleman comes away 17th. Andrew Covell in 18th. James Bloch in 18th. And Cody Fadenhauer in 20th. And that is going to do it for drivers that took the green flag. You see 2 drivers right there who did not make the green flag here tonight. Hopefully we'll see them next weekend. Excuse me, 2 weeks from now. So if you enjoyed what you saw, I just said it, 2 weeks from now, you can tune in, same time, same place, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we take to the track. Where are we going next week, Josh?
We are going to Monza, the Italian home track. And I think that's going to be a good race. It's going to be a lot of fast stretches, similar to Spa, but there will be less twisty bits, and it's a little bit more point and shoot. Formula One always puts on a good race there, and now we take ourselves there. and we're going to be there at 9 p.m. Eastern next week.
Alrighty, well, that's going to do it for us here tonight. Jarrett and Josh up here in the booth. Hope you guys enjoyed at home there on Twitch, whether you're watching it live or after the fact, or maybe on YouTube after we post the recording there. But hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for more of the Collegiate iRacing League. Until then, take it easy, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace on out, everybody.